In the quiet cold of a winter night in Alaska, the sky was suddenly split open by an unnatural flash of light. Mike, who had settled into a peaceful life after his days in the Air Force, was standing outside his cabin when he saw a burning object streak across the heavens, leaving a fiery trail among the stars before crashing into the frozen forest a few miles away. Without hesitation, Mike grabbed his heavy coat and emergency kit. His instincts as a pilot told him someone might need help, and he could be their only chance. His old but reliable truck roared to life, carrying him toward the crash site, guided by the burning glow against the night sky. He parked behind a thick stand of trees and continued on foot. The air smelled of scorched metal and ozone, clear signs that what had fallen wasn't just a meteor or an old satellite. As he drew closer, he saw the unmistakable wreckage of a spacecraft, half buried in ice and snow. Mike carefully climbed over twisted metal. The hull of the ship had split open, revealing a flickering interior lit by strange alien symbols and dim lights. Inside, sparks danced from shredded wires, broken panels littered the floor, and then he heard it, a faint cry beneath the collapsed section. He pushed aside the wreckage and uncovered a young alien girl. Her skin shimmered like the northern lights, glowing faintly in shifting colors. She was injured, struggling to breathe. "Hold on, I'm here to help," Mike whispered, unsure if she could understand him. He lifted the heavy panel from her legs. Her injuries were serious, a deep gash on her thigh, bruises across her body, but nothing that seemed instantly fatal. Using his emergency kit, he bandaged her wounds as best he could and helped her sit upright. Her eyes opened, glowing with a pale blue light, struggling to focus on him. She spoke in a series of soft, musical tones, clearly a language, though one Mike couldn't understand. "No need to talk," he told her. "I'll get you out of here, whether you understand me or not." Something in his tone must have reached her. Her body eased, and she let him carry her back to the truck. He laid her across the back seat and covered her with blankets to shield her from the freezing air. As he drove back to the cabin, his mind raced. His military training told him to contact his old superiors immediately, but he couldn't. She was vulnerable, alone. Until he understood more, he would keep her safe. That night, as he settled her into a makeshift bed, Mike realized his life had changed forever. Watching the alien girl's chest rise and fall in steady rhythm, he felt a new resolve harden inside him. He would protect her, no matter what. In the warmth of Mike's cabin, the alien, whose name he later learned was Ira, gradually regained her strength. Outside, the brutal Alaskan winter howled, but the sturdy walls kept the cold at bay. Over the following days, Mike watched Ira's resilience with quiet awe. Despite her injuries, she adapted quickly. He used an old tablet to record her symptoms and recovery, hoping it might help him understand her biology. She, in turn, grew curious about his world. Though language was a barrier, they began to communicate through gestures and expressions. Mike learned she could recognize some English words, though speaking them was still beyond her. One night, as the aurora borealis danced across the sky, Ira pointed at the shimmering lights and then at herself. Mike understood. She was telling him her home lay somewhere out in the stars, where such lights were familiar. He showed her a galactic map on his computer. Her eyes lit up as she traced a distant sector, marking the region of her home world. Mike realized then she needed more than just shelter. She needed to send a message home. He set up an old radio transmitter, hoping to tune into a frequency her people might use. Ira guided his hands with soft touches, helping him adjust the settings. Finally, sharp beeps cut through the static. Ira's face filled with relief and joy as she answered with a series of complex tones. Moments later, a melodic alien voice filled the room. She spoke rapidly, urgency and emotion in her voice. Mike couldn't understand the words, but he felt the weight of the moment. When the transmission ended, Ira turned to him, her expression somber. Through drawings and gestures, she showed him visions of her home world, Veloria, a planet caught in the grip of war. She pointed to herself, then to the scenes of battle, making clear she was no ordinary traveler. She was someone important, possibly even royalty, fleeing enemies who sought her capture or death. The responsibility pressed heavily on Mike's shoulders, but helping her felt more right than anything he had ever done. That night, while Ira slept, Mike sat by the fire, staring into the flames. He had stepped into a world far beyond anything he'd faced before. Yet the determination in Ira's eyes gave him strength. Whatever came next, they would face it together. But danger was already closing in. The crash had not gone unnoticed, and sooner or later, unwanted visitors would come looking. They needed to move. At dawn, Mike packed his truck with supplies. Ira, now strong enough to walk with his support, stayed close by. Her senses were sharp, scanning for threats. They drove deeper into the wilderness, toward an old hunter's cabin that Mike knew, remote, hidden, and off the grid. It would serve as a temporary refuge. But as they traveled the winding forest roads, Ira's unease grew. She kept watching the mirrors, eyes tense with fear. A sleek, dark vehicle, completely out of place on such rugged ground, appeared behind them. They were being followed. Mike pushed his old truck as fast as it could go, but the pursuers' technology was far superior. Realizing escape on the road was impossible, he veered sharply onto a narrow path through the woods. The chase intensified. The black vehicle matched every move. Just as hope seemed lost, Ira pointed toward a narrow pass between two ridges. It was risky. The path was barely wide enough for the truck, but it was their only chance. Branches scraped the sides as they forced their way through. The pursuers hesitated, giving Mike and Ira precious seconds to widen the gap. Emerging from the pass, they hid the truck beneath heavy trees, camouflaging it with branches. From there, they continued on foot. Despite her recent recovery, Ira moved with surprising agility, leading him through the snow until they reached the isolated hunting cabin. It was bare and rustic, but safe enough. Ira explained that the pursuer was likely a bounty hunter from her world, an expert tracker who would not give up easily. Her enemies, the Valoran, were known for their advanced technology, making escape even more difficult. Mike set up perimeter alarms and traps, relying on both his military training and his years of survival in the Alaskan wilderness. Together, they built a crude communication device from the scraps salvaged from her ship. The plan: send a distress signal to any friendly ships that might be near Earth. That night, as they watched over the cabin's perimeter, something had changed. They were no longer just a man and an alien, they were comrades, bound by danger and trust. They needed help, more resources and allies. Determined to expand their defensive capabilities, Mike reached out to some old acquaintances from his Air Force days. These were people who had left the service under mysterious circumstances, rumored to have discovered non-human technology. If anyone could understand and believe their situation, it would be them. Within a few days, two of his former comrades, Jack and Sophia, arrived at the cabin. At first, they were skeptical, but their doubts vanished after meeting Ira and hearing her story. They were fascinated by her technology and quickly understood the gravity of her struggle. Both had previously encountered unexplained aerial phenomena during their service and had once been part of a covert unit investigating such incidents. Sophia, with her expertise in communications technology, immediately began working with Ira to upgrade the alien communication device. Meanwhile, Jack focused on defensive strategies, setting up more advanced perimeter alarms and camouflaging their location from aerial and ground surveillance. Their combined efforts soon paid off. One night, the enhanced device, now upgraded with parts Sophia had secured, picked up a faint signal. It was a coded message from a Barana scout ship hidden in Earth's orbit, searching for any trace of Ira. The message was clear: help was near, but so was danger. The coup in Valoria had intensified, and Ira's enemies were using every resource to track her down. The group decided to relocate to a new site to send a stronger signal to the scout ship. They chose a remote mountain region known for minimal electromagnetic interference. The journey was risky. They had to transport Ira's delicate equipment safely while avoiding detection by the relentless bounty hunters still pursuing her. During the trip, Mike and Ira shared stories of their worlds. Ira spoke of Valoria's vast cities and glowing bioluminescent forests, while Mike told her about Earth's many cultures and its natural beauty. The exchange deepened their bond, bridging the gap between their worlds. Upon reaching the mountain site, the team worked tirelessly to set up the communication relay. Jack and Sophia patrolled the area, while Mike and Ira aligned the device with coordinates provided by the Barana scout ship. After hours of effort, the system powered on, establishing a stable connection. Ira sent her message: a request for extraction and a report on Valoria's political unrest. Now, all they could do was wait, hoping the signal reached the right ears and that help would come soon. That night, under a sky full of stars, the group settled in. For the first time since her arrival, Ira felt a spark of hope, strengthened by the unlikely alliance of humans who now stood by her side. The mountain refuge provided temporary comfort, but everyone knew their safety was fragile. They spent their days fortifying defenses, preparing for the bounty hunter's inevitable return. Though Ira's distress call had been sent, her people's response remained agonizingly absent. Then, one morning, while Mike was inspecting the area, he noticed strange patterns on one of the monitors, unusual movements suggesting they were no longer alone. Someone, or something, was systematically searching the desert. The bounty hunter had picked up the trail again. Mike quickly gathered the group and outlined a plan. They would outsmart the bounty hunter with decoys and deception. Jack and Sophia created false trails leading away from the hideout, while Mike and Ira worked on a more technical solution. Using parts from the communication device, they built small drone-like machines that could emit signals mimicking Ira's unique biological signature. These were deployed in multiple directions to confuse any sensors the bounty hunter might be using. Meanwhile, Ira felt a surge of determination. Despite longing for her home, she had come to admire Earth's rugged landscapes and the resilience of its people, qualities she saw reflected in Mike. Together, their bond grew stronger, transforming their shared struggle into a deeper alliance. As night fell, the group monitored their traps. Hours passed with no sign of the bounty hunter, but they stayed alert, rotating watch shifts. Suddenly, just before dawn, one of the monitors detected a sharp, brief signal. One of the decoys had been intercepted. Tracking the surveillance feed, they followed the bounty hunter's movements. He was alone, giving them a slim advantage. Mike devised a risky plan: intercept him in a nearby narrow pass, where Jack and Sophia had prepared an ambush. The tension was heavy as they took positions. The bounty hunter, clad in advanced stealth gear, was more formidable than expected. Still, surprise was on their side. As he entered the pass, Sophia triggered a trap net, briefly entangling him. The bounty hunter quickly cut through it with a device that released a concentrated energy beam, but before he could fully escape, Jack and Mike closed in. The confrontation was swift. Though outnumbered, the bounty hunter realized resistance was futile and finally yielded. Mike approached, hoping to learn who had sent him. Realizing his dire situation, the bounty hunter offered information in exchange for his release. He revealed that he had been hired by a rival faction in Valoria intent on eliminating Ira, to prevent her from reclaiming her rightful place in society. This revelation was a double-edged sword. It confirmed Ira's importance, and the lengths her enemies would go to stop her, but also highlighted that she still had loyal supporters back home. The group decided to hold the bounty hunter captive until they could ensure Ira's safe extraction. As dawn lit the mountains, the team felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had not only survived another encounter but had also gained critical intelligence. Ira's resolve to return and fight for her people grew stronger, bolstered by her human allies who now shared her cause. In the aftermath of the encounter, the group felt both victorious and wary. Capturing such a formidable enemy and extracting crucial information was a triumph, but it was clear their challenges were far from over. The bounty hunter's revelations made it clear that Ira's enemies were determined and resourceful. The communication device, now fully operational and constantly monitored by Sophia, remained their lifeline. As Mike and Jack interrogated the captive further, he disclosed that a powerful Valorian faction had orchestrated the coup. They feared Ira's progressive vision would undermine their control over the planet's resources. He also admitted they were monitoring Earth's transmissions, meaning Mike's location was soon to be compromised. Armed with this knowledge, the group decided to move once again, this time to an abandoned industrial site Sophia knew. Though less comfortable, it offered stronger defenses and was harder to reach, giving them a strategic edge. As they prepared for the move, a long-awaited response finally crackled through the communication device. The Barana scout ship had received Ira's message and was planning an extraction. But the situation was delicate. A blockade had been placed around Earth by her enemies, making any rescue attempt dangerous. The extraction plan required perfect synchronization. The scout ship could briefly breach the blockade and reach a specific set of coordinates within a narrow window of time. Ira and her group would need to be there at the exact moment. They worked tirelessly to prepare Ira for departure. Feeling the weight of her return, she shared more of her hopes for Valoria, a future where power was more fairly distributed and technological progress served all, not just the elite. Her determination inspired the entire group to see their mission through. Finally, the day of extraction arrived. The group reached the designated coordinates, a remote clearing far from usual paths. They secured the perimeter while Ira stood in the open, making herself visible to the scout ship's sensors. As the moment drew closer, the tension was electric. Everyone scanned the skies for any sign of interference. Then, in the eerie silence, a faint hum grew into a roar. The cloaked scout ship descended toward the clearing. Suddenly, alarms blared. Another ship was approaching, sent by Ira's enemies. The group braced for confrontation, but just as the hostile craft appeared, the scout ship unleashed a barrage of non-lethal weapons and countermeasures. The countermeasures disoriented the attackers, buying just enough time for Ira to be transported aboard her ship. As she ascended, Ira turned to Mike and the others, her eyes reflecting deep gratitude and a silent promise. The scout ship vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving behind a swirl of leaves and a group of humans who had just changed the course of an alien civil conflict. Mike, Jack, and Sophia watched the sky, their hearts heavy yet hopeful, knowing they had done more than their part to prove that humanity could stand alongside other races of the universe's equals. As they packed up to leave the clearing, they realized this adventure had forever changed their lives in ways they could not yet imagine. When the scout ship carrying Ira disappeared into the stars, Mike felt a mix of relief and melancholy. Back at their makeshift base, Jack and Sophia were lost in thought about the events that had unfolded. Ira was safe, on her way to reclaim her rightful place in Valorian society, but her absence left a palpable void. The following days were filled with a quiet, reflective atmosphere. Mike often stared at the sky for hours, wondering about Ira's fate and the future of her people. He thought of her vision for Valoria, her hopes for peace and justice, and how different, yet similar, those struggles were to those on Earth. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon casting a golden glow across the rugged landscape, Mike's satellite phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Ira, sent from her scout ship as it orbited a safe haven far from hostile space. She was preparing for the challenges ahead, gathering allies and planning her return to power. Her words were brief but filled with warmth and determination. Mike shared the message with Jack and Sophia as they packed their gear and discussed their next steps. The news lifted their spirits and affirmed that the risks they had taken, the alliances they had forged, were part of a cause that extended far beyond their direct involvement. The trio decided it was time to dismantle their temporary camp. They needed to return to their ordinary lives, to the anonymity that had once protected them and would now shield them from the consequences of their actions. As they loaded the last of their supplies into the truck, Mike proposed one final toast. Around a small fire beneath a clear, cool night sky, he raised his flask. To new friends across the stars, and to the hopes worth fighting for. Jack and Sophia echoed his words, each of them filled with a sense of accomplishment and curiosity about what the future might hold. Back at his cabin, Mike found himself unable to resume his old routine. The adventure had changed him, expanded his world in ways he had never imagined. His once comforting home now felt too small, too isolated. He began researching space, poring over reports of extraterrestrial encounters, and pondering humanity's place in the universe. Weeks turned into months, and Mike's restlessness grew. He attended conferences, connecting with others who believed in the existence of alien life and the need to prepare for a future where Earth might join a greater community of worlds. Then, one morning, another message arrived from Ira. This time, it carried hope. She had secured a position of influence and had begun implementing the changes she once dreamed of. Valoria was on the path to recovery and unity. She extended an invitation. Come and see the Valoria I am fighting for. The possibility of traveling to another world, of seeing Ira again, sparked something new in Mike. The idea was daunting, yet thrilling. He realized his journey with Ira was not over. It was simply entering a new phase. Determined, Mike began preparations, reaching out to contacts, and exploring the logistics of interstellar travel. He felt a profound sense of purpose. He was no longer just a witness to history, he was part of it, a bridge between Earth and the stars. When his ship finally departed Earth, Mike felt both loss and exhilaration. The stars ahead were no longer distant points of light but gateways to new experiences, and to a reunion he once thought impossible. As his vessel entered Valorian space, Mike was stunned by the beauty of Ira's homeworld, a planet of vivid colors, sprawling cities that shimmered under twin suns, and vast bioluminescent forests stretching to the horizon. His heart raced as the ship descended toward the capital where Ira awaited him. Their reunion was emotional, filled with awe. She welcomed him not only as a hero of her world, but as a dear friend and confidant. She showed him the progress her leadership had brought. Once hoarded technologies now improving the lives of everyone, and old divisions slowly healing. Over the following days, Mike immersed himself in Valorian culture, attending assemblies, visiting research institutions, exploring markets, and walking with Ira beneath glowing alien forests. One evening, as they stood beneath a sunset painting the sky in colors no Earth horizon could match, Ira took his hand. "From the moment you saved me, I knew our destinies were linked," she said softly. "Not just ours, but our worlds." Mike looked into her eyes, seeing both the leader she had become and the friend he had cherished. "I was just a man who stumbled upon an alien in the woods," he replied with a smile. "But now, I see a future I want to build, with you, and with Valoria." Together, they gazed at the stars that had once separated them, now shining with the promise of shared dreams, a testament to the power of courage, friendship, and love across the stars.